All right. Let's see. Let's see. Now, before we get into our primary article that we're going to look at today, we're going to look at some CRT stuff too. I just want to remind everyone that if you would like to support the work I do and, maybe support me on this crazy run for governor, I'm not doing fundraising or campaigning or anything, but there are ways that you can help me out being able to talk about running for governor, even if it's just like on Twitter. One of the things you can do is subscribe to my channel. People are unsubscribed from my YouTube channel literally every single day of the week. So it helps if you double check and you make sure you're subscribed, you have notifications on. You, of course, can also mount that like button for me. Another thing you can do is join me in my Locals community. Locals is the best place on the internet. It is the nicest place on the internet. It is a bully-free zone. That's why I kicked Justice's ass out of my Locals, because Justice is a bully for interacting with other bullies. So he's no longer there because we have a bully-free zone in my Locals. We have a thief-free zone in my Locals. And we do all sorts of great stuff together as a community. We do 2 Zoom calls a week. Our next Zoom call is tomorrow at noon Eastern time. So if you would like to join our next Zoom call, you can just sign up for Locals on the stream right now. It'll be all set. We also have a book club coming up. We have a craft and bitch coming up. So lots of good things going on there. You can become a member of my Locals by signing up for $5 a month. You can do it for $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. You can also make a one-time gift. You can join for free as well. You join for free just by heading over to kb.locals.com. It's right here. Bing. And that'll allow you to get access to the community. It'll allow you to get access to ad-free videos, be able to see what's going on. When you join for free, you're kind of a lurker, because the way that Locals stays nice and troll free and bully free is that we don't allow people to comment unless you've got a little skin in the game. That's how the whole thing works, and it keeps it nice for everyone. I also want to let you guys know that today I did a webinar for Actively Unwoke. I did my first intro webinar. It's actually still linked on the website because I haven't taken it down yet because I just got done with it not too long ago. But I did this webinar called Understanding the Danger of Critical Race Theory for Normal People. It was a great success. A lot of people came. Now, if you didn't get a chance to attend the live webinar, just head over to the website. You can access the recording right now on the webinar registration page. And I am going to be moving that over to an archive. But if you want to see the recording, if you feel like you missed out, you can access it right now. We had so many great questions. Oh my God. I've done like a lot of webinars, not on this topic. I have never gotten as many questions as I got today in this webinar. So I thought it was really, really great. And I was really happy with the way the webinar went and how it was received. And so if you want to catch the recording of that, just head over to activelyunwoke.com, and you can head over to the landing page right now before I update the website. And you can access that recording and also pre-order a copy of my book while you're there. You know, I had a talk with my publisher earlier today, right after the webinar, actually, and they're pretty happy with pre-sales. They're pretty happy, but I want them to be overjoyed with how many pre-sales that we get. Now, the Kindle version should be going on pre-sale very soon. The hardcover version is on sale now. They assured me that if they ever run out of hardcover materials for supply chain issues, they got that print on demand with the paperback ready to go, ready to hit that button if they need to. So that's pretty great as well. All right, guys, let's dig into this story. This is on NPR. 1 in 4 Americans say violence against the government is sometimes okay. Sometimes okay. You know NPR is perturbed about this article. You know they are. Nearly a quarter of Americans say it's sometimes okay to use violence against the government, and 1 in 10 Americans say violence is justified right now. As a reminder for our YouTube overlords, I'm not advocating violence in any way. Don't hurt people, don't steal things, don't destroy people's stuff. Anything else, I don't really care. That's the finding of a new report by the COVID States Project. The COVID States Project. Oh my God. Hang on. Is this a conservative project or a Democrat project? I'm betting it's a Democrat project. I'm betting that's a Democrat thing. That doesn't sound like a conservative thing, but who knows? Which asked 23,000 people across the country whether it is ever justifiable to engage in violent protest against the government. The report is one of several in recent months that find people more likely to contemplate violent protest than they have been in the past. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder why people are more likely to contemplate violent protest. Now, I bet we can surmise that NPR thinks that January 6th is the reason that people are more likely to contemplate violent protest. But I'm going to bet that I almost said Jeremy, like Jeremy Coffin for Senate. January 6th was more a symptom than a cause. The symptom of watching Democrats protest violently across the country for a full year. That's what may have given them the idea that violent protest is okay. Let me just make this font bigger. I always forget to make the font bigger for you guys. I'm going to get it together someday, I promise. Nearly 1 in 4 said violence was either definitely or probably justifiable against the government. A similar percentage of liberals and conservatives agree on that point. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting that they both agree? You know, after when was I talking about that I thought there would it must have been earlier this year. I think I was talking about how earlier this year, well, I know I was talking about it. I just don't remember when I was talking about it. I was talking about how I thought that there was a lot of alignment between like MAGA voters and Black Lives Matter protesters. Not the activists, not the people we looked at yesterday, but like everyday protesters. I thought there was a lot of alignment between those two audiences and they would actually get along if they, pulled their heads out of their backsides enough long enough to figure that out. And then, of course, I mean, we saw when New York City did implement vaccine mandates, that we did see that Black Lives Matter protesters were protesting against vaccine mandates. And I was like, aha. But it seems as though they are also aligned on potential violence against the government. That's not surprising when you think about how American history is taught, said COVID States Project Director. Now we're about to find out their political affiliations. We begin with the American Revolution against an illegitimate government, and so we are, in a sense, taught from grade school that at some points in history, it's justifiable to engage in violent protest. Now I'm even more convinced that this is a Democrat thing. Because is this guy arguing that we shouldn't be teaching about the American Revolution? Is that what this article's arguing? Because it says that's not surprising when you think about how American history is taught. I mean, the American Revolution is like a fact of history. It's not theoretical. It happened in real life. Are we arguing that that historical event shouldn't be taught to not give people the idea that violence against your government is okay? The COVID States Project typically asks questions about America's COVID-related policy preference and behaviors, whether they understand what kinds of masks are better at filtering viral particles, for instance. Oh yeah, this is definitely a Democrat project. Oh yeah, definitely. But in the current political climate, COVID-19 questions aren't too far removed from questions about violence. Oh, look at this. Ethan, every day of my YouTube existence. Ethan says, WTF, I just had to resubscribe to you. I know I didn't unsubscribe, but I came and I found I couldn't chat. Every single day of my YouTube existence. Every single day, YouTube unsubscribes people from my account. Guys, you got to check in. Remember, I post content almost every single day of the week except for Saturdays. And so if you haven't seen my content lately, I guarantee you I have posted content and YouTube has done shenanigans or tomfoolery. Ethan, welcome back. I'm glad you made it. Before the election in 2020, we were looking at both beliefs around the anticipated legitimacy of the election, as well as things like COVID modality, because obviously how people voted was determined in part by COVID. We see it all as part of the package with what has happened over the last 2 years in American society. The survey also found that 1 in 10 Americans say violence is justified right now. Guys, I'm going to do a poll in the chat. This is on YouTube only. Sorry, Odyssey and Rockfin. Am I even live on Rockfin? I'm not live on Rockfin. Oh, shit. There we go. Now I'm live on Rockfin. Sorry, I didn't press the button. So I'm going to put a poll in the YouTube chat. Do you believe violence against the government is ever justifiable? Yes? No. I should probably spell government correctly in this poll. I mean, I guess it's not like a requirement, but I should probably spell it correctly. Hang on. I know how to spell government. On a good day, anyway. Fun fact, spelling is by far my worst subject. It is but like in school, so bad with spelling. If you guys ever see me have a typo in anything, don't even bother correcting me. I'm sorry. There are things that I suck at, and those things are spelling and copy editing, and it's just the way it is. The survey also found 1 in 10 Americans say violence is justified right now. Republicans and ideological conservatives are most likely to say violent protest against the government is justifiable right now. The report found among Republican men, of course, they had to segment it by men, the figures rise to nearly 1 in 5. 2/3 of those who believe violent protest is justified say the federal government is the appropriate target. I kind of love that, if I'm honest about it. I kind of love it. Listen, man, you know who the appropriate target is not for violent protest? A black-owned business or any I shouldn't even say black. I mean, obviously black-owned business, they're not, justifiable for protest. Any small business. The reason that BLM and Antifa attack small business is because they're against capitalism. It's not because they're against the government. It's not because they're against the police. It's because they're against capitalism. Conservatives at least have the good sense that to know that if they're going to engage in violent protest, to direct it at the proper target, which is the government, in which case I don't believe in violence. But, if I did believe in violence, the government would probably be the correct target. I just don't want the FBI showing up at my door. I don't want to visit saying, Carlin, are you advocating for the violent overthrow of the federal government? I'll be like, no, I'm not. I said violence wasn't justified. I'm merely reporting on the fact that 1 in 5 Republican men and 1 in 10 Americans overall seem to think the violence is justifiable right now, and they have their sights set on you. I'm just doing a news report, man. I'm basically a journalist. I'm like a professional journalist right now. Kind of. But I think that we can say that if they have the good sense to understand that, if they're going to engage in this, that is the correct target. The mom and pop store on the street corner is not the correct target. The Target or the CVS or the department store is not the correct target. You only attack businesses if you are against capitalism. If you attack the police or the government, I can kind of, again, not advocating for violence, I can kind of wrap my head around that idea. You're attacking something that is imposing its will on your life. I can kind of I understand it. I understand it. I do not understand violent protest against small businesses unless your target is capitalism and not authoritarianism. Just saying. Unfortunately, these survey findings are not at all surprising, said Rachel, a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Rachel, who was not involved in the survey, says the findings are consistent with other recent polling. Isn't that fascinating? Last year, a University of Chicago poll found that 1 in 10 Americans believed the use of force was justified to restore Trump to the presidency after he lost. Well, I don't agree with that. And in December, a Washington Post and University of Maryland together found that 1 in 3 Americans think violence against the government is sometimes justified. The number of Americans who support violent political protests has doubled over the last decade. And to Rachel, these poll results reflect more than philosophizing. It's moved from a sphere of chest thumping into a sphere of reality. It's affecting election workers, volunteer poll workers, school boards, really kind of wrap and weft of our democratic system. Told you this was a Democrat article. Told you. The government needs to hold citizens to account, says Rachel, who apparently is a little bit more than an independent poll interpreter and is an obvious activist. Not just those who would storm the Capitol, but anyone who threatens the workers to keep our democracy running. Okay, all right. So there's that. Let's see how our polls go. Oh, you guys are... I love you guys. 98% of the people in my chat say that they believe that violence against the government is perhaps sometimes justifiable. I'm just gonna be standing behind you guys. Just, I'm a pacifist. I don't engage in violence. I'm just gonna stand back and let you guys do whatever you want to do. I'm not gonna get involved. I'm not gonna get involved. My days of getting interviewed by the FBI are over.